Hello and welcome to this edition of Nailed It. This week, I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful DVD rack. It holds up to 70 DVDs. Psst! For all you millennials out there, a DVD is something people used to watch before YouTube and Netflix. So every time you hear me say DVD, just think video game. It'll be our secret. This DVD rack will be the perfect start of our soon-to-be beach-themed bedroom. We painted it in a teal color to represent the ocean, and we intentionally chose a stain that leaves a lot of streaks because we wanted it to look like ocean water current right here on the DVD rack. I've never really had a project where I needed to use a lot of dados and a lot of rabbets, so I thought this would be the perfect project to experiment with both of those. I'll be making most of the cuts for my rabbets and dados using my router. With a 5/8 bit, set it about 3/8 of an inch deep. The first thing we'll need to do is cut this plywood down to size. You can find the dimensions in the description below. I'm going to be using these saw guides. It's probably the best $15 I've ever spent at my local Home Depot. Lordy, lordy, I've got a boardy. My next step is going to be to sand down these edges. I know, I can hear you already. Why sand it now? Why not wait till we're done? The reason I want to sand these edges first is because by the time we're done, there's going to be a lot of little slits in here that might break off if we sand them then. Now that we've finished sanding, I've laid out all my lines so we can start cutting with the router for the dados and the center rabbet. I've laid out 3/4 inch lines on both sides, and measuring down from the top, I have 3 lines. I have my first line at 4 5/8 inches, the center line 5 7/16, 6 1/4 inches. Now before you set up your cutting jig, you're going to want to know the exact distance between the edge of your router and the router bit. In my case, it's 2 1/2 inches. You're going to want to measure yours. Not like that, but you know, measure yours. You know. Now the next cut that we're going to make is a dado right down the center of the board. Now that we cut out that center line, I'm going to start cutting dados down the board for the DVDs. For you millennials, those are video games. So if you remember that original center line measurement, it measured 5 7/16. So I've set my table saw to cut dead center at 5 7/16, and we're going to cut it directly down the center to make our 2 halves. Now that we have our 2 halves, we're ready to cut the ends and the backing. The final step, after you've cut your strips, are the end pieces. Now, I already cut these because I forgot to turn the camera on, but here they are. You can see the dimensions in the description below. Or, if you don't like reading, they're 8 3/8 by 4 5/8. Now we want to glue up these backing strips. That'll make this board nice and straight when we put it all together. You know, people who garden are called green thumbs. People who woodwork should be called glue thumbs, because who actually uses a glue brush? Once you get the backings on, it's time to put the ends on. So while we wait for the glue to dry, I've got my video games, fallout. So once you realize that my measurements were wrong, go back and cut off 3/4 of an inch off each end and do everything all over again. That's why I'm making the show. You can learn from my mistakes. And then just put on the stain. Now the directions call for 2 coats, so that's what I'll be doing. There we go, 2 coats. Boy, it's hot working like this. Now this particular custom stain leaves a lot of streaks, which is exactly what we want. With the second coat, you're still going to see a lot of streaks in there, which is exactly what we want for an ocean color in a beach-themed room. It's going to give it the illusion or the effect that this is water with all those streaks. Now, I told you before that these rear brackets are meant to keep the structure straight on the top and bottom. That's true, but we're also going to be using them as mounting brackets when we attach them to the wall. Now you'll want to make sure that you use a level when you hang this up to make sure it's square with the rest of the room. Once you have it mounted, you can start hanging up your DVDs. I mean video games. You know. Thanks for watching this edition of Nailed It. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.